In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
It's not often that the Episcopal liturgy offers flexibility or options or the chance to do something different. Well, today is one of those unique moments where, when we were planning the service, we could choose from one of 3 Gospels appointed for today. Now that tells you something about the importance of the Incarnation. We could have chosen the Gospel of Luke, which is the story of the young Jesus staying behind in the temple. We didn't choose that. We could have chosen the Gospel of Herod's response to the wise men, which was to order the murdering of every 2-year-old Jewish baby boy throughout Judea. We didn't choose that one. We chose the wise men coming to the stable who followed the light of that mysterious star that brought them to the incarnation of the light of the world. Now, at first glance, we might think we chose the wrong one. Looking back at the year 2015, certainly the story of the innocents who were murdered by Herod and the flight of the Holy Family to Egypt seems a little bit more in tune with a world that is just full of violence and of unrest. I heard a disturbing fact last week that the number 1 and best run youth organization in the world is, wait for it, Al-Qaeda. Isn't that a shocking thing? We live in a world with ISIS. We live in a world with terrorism, not only in Europe, but now again in this country. We certainly have sympathy and understanding for a Holy Family in fear, fleeing the violence of King Herod. The historian Josephus tells us that Herod was the most efficient and the most brutal of all of the Judean kings. Thankfully, he was the last of his line. But yet, that's not the gospel we chose for today. We chose a gospel about God shining light into darkness. God coming to an inn to be born and told that the inn is all filled up. But God finding a way through the back door. That, my friends, isn't that something that we celebrate at Christmas? Our world can seem so full of difficult things, of negative things, of violent things. But God finds a way in anyway. Our lives can be full of so many things, good and bad. But God is able, at our invitation, to find a way in anyway. About a month ago, I was in Cambodia. And Cambodia was the last country on the sabbatical that I recently returned from. And it was a surprise country in many ways because of all of the literature I had read. It wasn't a country I had chose that I set out wanting to go to, but it happened to be a country where we were going to spend a weekend at the end of the country that I had selected to be in. I don't know if you've ever done that, but you've gone to a place and you had no expectation of what that place was going to be like. And it moved you the most. It moved you more than all the places you'd been looking forward to going because you didn't bring any preconceptions with you. I remember being in Angkor, and Angkor is spelled A-N-G-K-O-R, and if you say it fast, it sounds like anger. And there's an interesting correlation because anger and Angkor go hand in hand in some ways historically. I don't know where I was in my following of world events in the 1990s. I had just been ordained and was a young priest out in West Virginia, so I may have not been listening to the news. But in the 1990s, Cambodia was undergoing genocide. And in Angkor, we visited one of the killing fields of Cambodia. And there is a stupa there. A stupa is a kind of shrine that holds sacred objects. And this shrine has glass walls and it's full of skulls, several hundred skulls. And they represent the hundreds of thousands of skeletons that are underneath Angkor's killing field. Because the Khmer Rouge systematically killed people who were learned and skilled in Cambodia. One of the things they looked for were people who wore glasses. If you wore glasses, you were dead, because it meant you could read. They looked at your hands, and if you didn't have calluses, they killed you, because it meant you didn't work for a living. In the 1990s, Cambodia's population was 8 million, small country. That 8 million, they killed 2.5 million people. I remember thinking, boy, if St. Mark's were in Cambodia in the 1990s, our entire congregation would be wiped out, for we all fall into the target audience that they were looking for. So I'm there. There's a stupa. There's also a temple, Buddhist temple. I take off my shoes and go into the temple. And by this point on my trip, I had been in so many temples in the last 3 months, I can't begin to tell you. I take off my shoes, and this boy is probably 8 or 9 years old, but he's dressed in the holy orange robes that the monks wear, and he has his head shaved like a monk. And he comes over to my shoes, and he very carefully turns them around so that when I come out of the temple, I can just slip them on again. And he goes over and he gets a candle, and he brings and wants to hand me this unlit candle. Now, beware of people in temples handing you candles, because it's going to cost you. I think churches, not only churches, but temples and shrines, we all have a racket on candles. I remember being in the Holy Land, they sell you a candle, and 5 minutes later they put it out and sell it to somebody else. Anyway, he has his candle in his hand. He's very insistent. And for the first time on the trip, I felt moved, and I actually gave money in the box, and I bought the candle. But then I handed him the candle, and he just sort of looked at it. And then he went over to the altar, and he lit the candle, and he paused, and I will never know what prayer he prayed, or to who he prayed it to, but he had a holy moment with the candle. And he planted it in front of the altar, and then he went off to stand by one of the large statues of a Buddha. And it was a sacred moment of this little boy who had no memory of that violence in Cambodia, who was lighting this light, symbolic of a future for our country that we hope and pray will be a good, positive, peaceful future. And they're certainly taking remarkable steps toward that future now. This example of light in the darkness, my friends, that is what Becoming Epiphany this week is going to celebrate as well. The idea that light shines and darkness cannot overcome that light. On Christmas Day, we read the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. The actual translation, if we were to go back 2,000 years ago into Palestine, of the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, actually is, and love came and pitched a tent next to me in the dirt. That's the translation. And there is a wonderful song that I like very, very much by the Anglican priest called Malcolm Geet. He's a rector of a church in Cambridge in the UK. He's also one of the foremost C.S. Lewis scholars in the world. But he has a song that he's written, and in it he talks about this concept of love coming among us. And he writes, "It's right here in the dirt, where we have all been loved and hurt, that love itself came and pitched a tent." My friends, a tent of light has been pitched among us. May we walk with that light. May we walk in that light, and may we open the doors of that light to a world that is begging for light amidst darkness. Amen.